Hello there, welcome to Creepy Encounters. In today's video, my stalker defended me in a fight at a hot dog shop. Slow, children are being filmed. Creep trying to help.
A few years ago, when I was about 19, I got a job at a hot dog shop.
With a phallic pun for a name, in a somewhat shady area, the shop was pretty well known and had some fantastically dark local lore. Rumors that the hot dogs were made out of horse meat, that the whole operation was a front for something less savory, or that we had been closed by the health inspector and reopened illegally circulated, but people kept coming back for our delicious hot dogs. I soon discovered that none of that was even remotely true, but it was fun to gossip. And we'd often give customers ambiguous answers to fuel their wide-eyed morbid curiosities. I got used to the quirky characters that would come by pretty quickly. Some older gentleman rumored to be involved with organized crime, the occasional nightclub owner, tourists, and many homeless and mentally ill people who we would provide food for too. The community was diverse and sometimes dangerous, but people looked after each other. One shift, in the early hours of the morning, I was working the register when a man came in. He has long dark hair and thick stubble covering most of the lower half of his face. The shop is busy and he orders, steps to the side, and keeps chatting to me while other people order. I was used to this. In an area with a lot of nightlife, you get pretty comfortable with drunk ramblings, people hitting on you through slurred speech. I felt okay as long as I was on the other side of the counter. About halfway through, after telling me his thoughts about all the other men in the shop being posers, but before he started telling me how beautiful I was, the man tells me that he is a chef at a nearby restaurant. Like I said, people look after each other here, so I was reassured, but I gave him a fake name just to be safe. I started seeing him often. It wasn't uncommon to have regulars, some even on a first name basis, but when my coworkers told me he had come looking for me, asking after me when I wasn't there, I started to feel uneasy. Every time I saw him, he seemed to be more intoxicated than the last. He would walk in and say, "Hey beautiful," or "Hey pretty girl," so casually as though it was really my name. It made me feel sick to my stomach every time. One night at 2 a.m. I finished my shift, only to step out onto the sidewalk and see him there, on the other side of the road, waving at me coyly. I tried not to think about how long he might have been there, watching me through the shop's large, neon sign cluttered windows. My manager walked me to my car that night. Not too long after that, it was a Saturday night and the shop was pumping. Anyone who has worked hospitality knows exactly what I'm talking about. There was a 40-minute wait for French fries. The tiny shop floor was crowded with people who had rolled out of any one of the nearby nightclubs, drug-addled and starving. The 3 a.m. rush. A big, bulky man in his mid to late 20s started getting in my face. He had ordered fries and been waiting for 30 minutes. I kept apologizing, but that just made him more mad. I was desperately trying to plan an escape from my position against the back wall, behind the counter, to the front door where I could get a club bouncer's attention and have them come over and sort this guy out. There was no hope, the store was too crowded. That's when I hear a sloppy but familiar voice. "Leave her alone." My stalker emerges from the crowd. A mere 5'5", he fronts up against the massive man and they start fighting. Luckily the commotion did catch the eye of a bouncer who ran in and swiftly de-escalated the situation. Shortly after that I got a more stable job offer elsewhere and moved on. But to my hot dog shop stalker, thanks, but no thanks. I was 16-17 years old working for Subway at the time, and this older man kept coming in to talk to me. He was telling me that I'm his favorite worker, and I'm so much more polite and bright than the other employees that worked there. I didn't think much of it initially, as I was really popular among the regulars there. Weeks went by of compliments like these, until they got more personal. He kept telling me I was beautiful, had beautiful structure, etc. He wasn't attractive by any means, but I had experienced years of bullying and really liked the attention and confidence boost. One day, he came in with a business card. He told me he was a photographer, and that he wanted to pay me for some headshots for his modeling portfolio. I should have seen several red flags that I overlooked. He wanted me to do it at his house, he had no other work to show me, knew I was underage so it was illegal to take pictures of me, and finally that his name read Richard Cox. Yes sir, that translates to Dick Cox. I am oblivious. He told me he would pay me $250 for a 1-hour session, and that's a lot of money for a teen my age, so I jumped at the opportunity. Luckily, I wasn't completely dense and invited my boyfriend and best friend at the time to come and watch, and to ensure safety. When we arrived, Cox looked disappointed to see us all together but let us in nonetheless. His living room was full, like all 4 walls top to bottom, with different sizes, styles, and colors of crosses. There was not a single empty space for another cross, or anything else for that matter. He told us he had a wife, but there were only pictures of him and his dog. He made me sign a disclosure, and told me to just ignore the 18 and up verification question. He brought us down to this basement that had a little room in the back. There was a SHD camera propped up on a tripod, and a hung up dirty sheet on the back wall. The rest of the room had a bunch of holiday storage, Halloween decor, etc. It certainly didn't look like a set. I remember thinking that it was odd he had such a SHD camera as a photographer, but brushed it off. He hung up the changes of clothes I bought. He requested 4 outfits. He told me to get changed into the first outfit in the room, and he would be back to take the pictures. He took a few pictures at a couple of angles for every outfit, but everything seemed rushed. He pushed us out the door at the end, and handed me some cash. I told my parents about it, excitedly, but they were not impressed. Who ended up getting a restraining order against him because he refused to delete my photos until the police got involved. He was an upstanding citizen with no prior charges, so they didn't go through his computer as my father had pushed for. He was a real estate agent previously, with no background in photography whatsoever. Now that I'm an adult, I understand the severity of the situation. I was changing alone in the middle of that cluttered room, several times. It would be so easy to hide a camera in there to watch me change over and over. The pictures he took of me were likely a mere courtesy, and the underlying purpose was to get videos of me changing. Other creepy facts: he texted me angrily asking why I told my parents, asked for pictures of my friend too, and had a basketball hoop and a sign out front that said "Slow children are playing," despite having no children himself or grandchildren. Maybe just wanted kids playing in his yard. Oh, and his name was not Dick Cox, surprise surprise. Several years ago, when I had just turned 16, my younger sister, who was about 13 at the time, and I decided one evening that we would go get ice cream since I could now drive us. We lived in a rural area, so in order to get to the Dairy Queen we had to drive about 20 minutes. There were several ways to get there, but I chose the more secluded route that went through country roads because it was quicker. I ended up regretting that because it was dark out and foggy and generally creepy. It was not well lit because of it being a rural road with hardly any streetlights. Well, I end up hitting a deer because it's very common in the area that I live for deer to be out and about to run out in front of you. On top of the fog, I just didn't see it. It had also just rained a lot, so the sides of the road were very muddy. I pulled over very shaken up, of course, and ended up getting stuck in the mud on the side of the road. Now remember, this is a secluded road with hardly any street lights and just a few houses spread apart. I called my parents so they could come get us, but of course it would be about 15 or so minutes until they would arrive anyway. I had my flashers on and we saw a pair of headlights pull up behind us. I knew it couldn't be your parents because it was too soon. Suddenly on the driver's side door appears this older man smoking a cigarette and knocking on my window. I couldn't see his face entirely due to the darkness, but even so I immediately got a creepy vibe from him, but I didn't think it was bad enough to straight up try to ignore the guy. I rolled the window down just a crack and he asked if we are okay and if we need help. At first I thought it was okay because he didn't seem creepy, but after we said we were waiting for our parents to come he got more anxious. He kept trying to hurry and get us to get out of the car and wait in his car and became more demanding. Now we were just a 16 and a 13-year-old girl and didn't have anything to defend ourselves with. I couldn't drive away because my car was too stuck in the mud on the side of the road. So if he had tried to drag us out of the car or something, we wouldn't have any way to defend ourselves besides kicking and screaming and hoping someone heard it in BFE. Suddenly a light from the porch of the house across the street flicks on and they come out to see what is going on, since there is a random car in front of their house. This spooks the guy and he takes off in his truck. Finally our parents get there and the sheriff to make sure everything is okay, but at this point we were both crying scared because of the accident and the creepy old dude. In hindsight it could have been nothing, but I'm just glad I watched enough murder shows and podcasts to know not to get out when someone demands it and not to get in a random old fellow's truck. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe for more real life creepy encounters around the world. See you in the next video. Bye.